The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. That's the thing about Harrow's Cove. The fog rolls in off the Atlantic like it owns the place, and the drizzle just settles into your bones until you forget what dry feels like. I was driving home early, cutting through the back roads because Route 1 was clogged with leaf peepers who didn't understand that October in coastal Maine isn't picturesque. It's cold, wet, and mean. The kind of weather that makes you wonder why anyone ever settled here in the first place. Half the houses in town had wood stoves going already, smoke curling up into the gray like surrender flags. The maple trees that every tourist came to worship were already going brown, the leaves clumped and heavy with water, refusing to fall. I'd finished a job 2 towns over, installing a new security system for a dentist's office. Easy work. Cameras, motion sensors, a cloud backup that would let them watch their parking lot from Cancun if they wanted. I'm good at what I do. Ethan Vale, IT field tech, 36 years old, and quietly competent in a world that mistakes loud for capable. I don't need praise. I need things to work. Wires where they should be, signals clean, no one calling me at midnight because they forgot the admin password again. Simple, controlled, predictable. The plan was simple. Surprise Maya. We'd been married 12 years, and lately things had felt thin. Like old denim stretched too tight, the fabric whitening right before it tears. She'd been distracted, working late at the Slipway, the restaurant she co-owned with Zoe Flores. I figured maybe an early arrival, some takeout from that Thai place she liked, and a bottle of wine might reset whatever frequency we'd drifted off. We weren't fighters. We were drifters. And drifting is worse, because you don't even notice the distance until you can't see the other shore anymore. I turned onto Harborview Drive at 4:47 p.m. I remember the time because I'd glanced at the dashboard clock, thinking I'd beat her home by at least an hour. The street was quiet, lined with those narrow New England houses that lean toward each other like gossiping old women, as if they'd collapse inward if the wind ever stopped blowing. Our place was halfway down, a blue 2-story with white trim that Maya had insisted we repaint last summer. Curb appeal, she said. Resale value. I should have noticed that second part more. That's when I saw Ruthie Keene sprinting across her lawn. Ruthie was our neighbor, a night shift nurse at Harrow General with the kind of blunt, no-nonsense energy that made doctors nervous. She was 52, rail-thin, and had opinions about everything from HOA bylaws to the proper way to salt a driveway. Right now, she was moving faster than I'd ever seen her move, waving her arms like she was trying to flag down a medevac. Even from a distance, she looked wrong, too frantic, too sharp, like someone had wound her spring too tight. "Wait," she shouted. "Ethan, wait, you need to hear this first." I stopped halfway up my own driveway, keys in hand, rain starting to soak through my jacket. The water found every weakness in the seams, creeping in like it knew where to push. "Ruthie, what—" "The police were called," she said, breathless, gripping my arm hard enough that I felt the bones in her fingers. "By Maya, about 20 minutes ago. She said there was a prowler." The words didn't land right away. They just sort of hovered there in the wet air between us, like they were waiting for permission to matter. "A prowler," I repeated. "She called 911, said someone was trying to get into the house. Tom Doyle's on his way." I looked past her toward my front door. The porch light was on. Through the window, I could see the flicker of the TV in the living room. Nothing looked disturbed. No broken lock, no smashed glass, no looming figure with a crowbar. "Ruthie, I live here." "I know that, but she doesn't know you're home early, does she?" Before I could answer, I heard the growl of an engine. Sergeant Tom Doyle's cruiser rolled up the street, lights flashing, but no siren. Tom was 41, built like a retired linebacker gone soft around the middle, and he'd lived in Harrow's Cove his entire life. He knew everyone, which meant he also knew everyone's business. He was the kind of cop who'd seen every version of trouble this town could produce, and some days you could tell he wished for something bigger, just so the job felt like it still mattered. He parked behind my truck and stepped out, one hand resting casually on his belt. He had that casual authority small-town cops cultivate, the kind that says I don't need to draw my gun to remind you who's in charge. "Ethan," he said, nodding. "Ruthie." "Tom." "Got a call about a prowler," he said, scanning the front of the house like it might confess. "You just get home?" "About 2 minutes ago." His eyes flicked to my truck, then back to me. "Maya inside?" "I assume so." He studied me for a moment, rain dripping off the brim of his hat. He didn't look suspicious, just tired, like he already knew this was going to be one of those reports that would make him roll his eyes later. "You mind waiting here while I check things out?" "It's my house, Tom." "I understand that, but I got a call, so I need to follow up. Just give me a minute." I stepped back, rain soaking into my shirt now. Ruthie stood beside me, arms crossed, watching the door like she expected something explosive. She lived for this kind of drama, not in a malicious way, more like she had a nurse's instinct for adrenaline and couldn't help being drawn to it. Tom knocked. "Police? Ma'am, it's Sergeant Doyle." The door opened after a few seconds. Maya stood there, backlit by the hallway light, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater I didn't recognize. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and her face, God, her face still did something to me even when I was standing in the rain like an idiot. But there was something else there too, a flicker, not fear, not relief, calculation. "Oh, thank God," she said, pressing a hand to her chest. "I heard someone outside, and I thought—" Then she saw me. Her expression froze. Not shock, exactly. Something more complicated, like she'd been caught mid-sentence and forgotten the rest of the words. "Ethan?" "Surprise," I said. Tom looked between us. "So, no prowler?" I didn't know he was coming home early." Her voice had that careful quality people use when they're buying time to think. "I heard the truck, and I panicked." "You panicked?" I said. You thought someone was breaking into the house, so you called the cops, on me." Tom cleared his throat. "Ethan, you got keys? ID?" I pulled out my wallet and keys, handed them over. He glanced at the license, at the keys, then back at Maya. "Ma'am, you want to confirm this is your husband?" "Yes, of course. I'm sorry, Tom. I overreacted." Ruthie made a small noise beside me. Not quite a laugh, not quite a scoff. She was already rehearsing how she'd retell this to the rest of the neighborhood. Tom handed back my keys. "All right. Looks like a misunderstanding. Ethan, you're good to go inside. Maya, maybe next time check the window before you dial 911. "I will. I'm sorry." She stepped aside, and I walked past her into my own house, dripping rainwater onto the hardwood floor we'd refinished 2 years ago. The air smelled wrong. Not bad, just off. Like someone had opened a window and let in too much of the outside. There was a faint trace of cologne, something woodsy, expensive, one I didn't recognize. Tom lingered on the porch for a moment. "You folks okay?" "We're fine," Maya said quickly. Too quickly. Just a miscommunication. "All right. You have a good night." He left. The door closed, and then it was just the two of us, standing in the hallway, rain drumming on the roof. "You're home early," she said. "Finished the job ahead of schedule. You should have texted." "I wanted to surprise you." She smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Well, surprise." I looked around the living room. The TV was on, some cooking show with the volume low. There were 2 glasses on the coffee table. One still had a finger of amber liquid in it. Whiskey, maybe. I didn't drink whiskey. Maya didn't either. "Expecting company?" I asked. "What?" "Oh, no. That's from last night. Zoe came by after we closed." "Zoe drinks whiskey?" "Sometimes." I picked up the glass, sniffed it. Expensive. Smooth. Not the kind of thing Zoe would drink. She was a beer and tequila girl. "Where's your jacket?" I asked. "What?" "Your jacket. It's cold out. You were wearing something warmer earlier, right?" She blinked. "I don't know. Upstairs, I guess." I walked to the coat hooks by the door. There was a men's jacket hanging there. Charcoal gray, nice material, with a small tag inside the collar that read Heartworks Custom Renovations. I held it up. "This Zoe's too?" Maya's face went pale. Colin left it here last week. He was helping with the shelf in the kitchen." "Colin Hart." "Yes, Colin Hart. Contractor, renovation influencer, owner of Heartworks showroom downtown. 6'2", gym rat build, teeth too white, hair always perfect. The kind of guy who called everyone brother and took selfies in his truck. He'd done a half-hour interview on local cable news about reclaiming modern masculinity through craftsmanship. I'd heard it secondhand from one of the guys at the hardware store and almost drove my truck into a ditch from cringing. "He was helping with the shelf?" I repeated. "Yes. The shelf I installed 3 months ago." She opened her mouth, closed it. I hung the jacket back up. "I'm going to take a shower. Long day." "Ethan?" "It's fine, Maya. I'm just tired." I walked upstairs, every step careful and measured, and locked myself in the bathroom. The mirror was fogged. The shower was still damp. Someone had used it recently, within the last hour. Maya never showered in the early afternoon. She always did it at night, before bed. Routine was one thing we'd always shared, even when nothing else felt aligned. I stood there, staring at my reflection in the condensation, and felt something cold settle into my chest. Not anger, not yet. Just a quiet, spreading awareness that the life I thought I had was already gone, and I was the last one to know. I turned on the shower. While the water heated, I pulled out my phone and opened the app for our front door camera, the one I'd installed, the one tied to the cloud account I paid for every month. I scrolled back 2 hours. There he was, Colin Hart, walking up to my front door at 2:38 p.m., reaching into the fake planter Maya kept on the porch, pulling out the spare key she'd hidden there. Calm, casual, like someone arriving at their own place. He let himself in. At 4:23 p.m., he left. I watched him pause on the porch, check his phone, then jog to his truck parked 3 houses down. The audio was fuzzy, but I could make out Maya's voice in the background, muffled through the door. "You need to go, now." I set the phone down on the sink. The water was scalding now, steam filling the room. I stepped into the shower and let it burn. It wasn't the kind of hurt that made you yell. It was the kind that stripped everything away, layer by layer, until only the truth was left. I don't know how long I stood there under the water. Long enough for the heat to drain from the tank. Long enough for the burn to dissolve into numbness. By the time I stepped out, the mirror was completely fogged, the air thick and heavy. I wiped my hand across the glass and met my own eyes again. They didn't look angry. They looked awake. When I opened the bathroom door, the hallway was dark. The house was quiet. No TV downstairs, no footsteps, no sound from the bedroom, not even the creak of old floorboards settling. Maya was gone. Not just out of the room, out of the house. Her car was missing from the driveway. I walked downstairs slowly, noticing the details I'd overlooked earlier. A throw blanket folded too quickly. A faint ring of condensation on the table where one of the whiskey glasses had sat. No second glass anymore. She'd taken it to the sink, rinsed it out, erased the evidence, but not the timeline. The spare key was no longer in the planter. She was covering tracks, just not fast enough. On the kitchen counter, next to a stack of unopened mail, sat her phone. Charging, screen dark. That was strange. Maya never left the house without it. She was surgically attached to the thing, which meant she was either in a hurry or she didn't want to be tracked. I didn't touch it, not yet. I wasn't ready to cross that line, not because I cared about privacy anymore, but because I already knew I wouldn't like anything I found. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table and listened to the pipes hum as the water heater refilled. Rain pattered against the windows, softer now, like the storm was tiring too. The house felt bigger than it ever had, like a stage emptied of actors mid-scene. At 6:02 p.m., the front door opened. Maya walked in, soaked but composed, like she'd rehearsed the moment in the car. She froze again when she saw me at the table, but only for a second. She set down a paper bag of groceries. Too normal. Too timed. "You were out?" I said. "I needed air." Rain's full of it. She didn't smile. "Ethan, where'd you go?" "Nowhere. I drove. I thought." "What about?" She swallowed. "About us. About what just happened. About how it looked." I leaned back. It looked like a man walked into my house with a key and walked out again 2 hours later while my wife took a shower and called the cops on me for arriving home early. Her jaw worked. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think." Silence stretched between us, thin and sharp. She sat down across from me, hands folded tightly. "Colin and I, don't." I didn't raise my voice, didn't slam the table, just said the word like a closed door. She stared at me, waiting for the version of me she knew, the quiet fixer, the one who smoothed over conflict, filled in cracks, found reasonable explanations for unreasonable things, the man who'd chosen logic over instinct so many times he'd forgotten the difference. But that version wasn't here anymore. "There's more," she said finally, voice barely above a whisper. I believed her, and that was the worst part. Because whatever I thought I knew, about her, about us, about the last 12 years, was about to get smaller, and darker, and truer. She didn't speak right away. It wasn't hesitation. It was calculation, deciding how much truth the moment could survive and how much she could still withhold. I could see the gears working behind her eyes, the quiet sorting of lies into categories. The ones worth keeping, the ones already useless, the ones she'd have to reframe into a softer shape. "Maya," I said, "if you're deciding between the truth and the kinder version of it, just pick the first one. I'm done being cushioned." She flinched, just a flicker, but it was there. "He wasn't supposed to be here today," she said finally. "That's your main concern? Scheduling?" "No." She shook her head, fingers twisting in her lap. "I was ending it." "That why you showered?" Her eyes snapped up. You went in the bathroom. I live here. Yes, I went in the bathroom. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence agreed with me. I watched her. Really watched her. Not the way you watch someone you love, tracing the familiar, filling in the gaps with memory. I watched her like a stranger with a story I was only now hearing. How long? I asked. She looked down, then back up, and for a second, just a second, I thought she might lie. But maybe she was too tired. Or maybe she finally understood that I already knew the scale of it. 4 months, she said. 4 months. 120 days. A season. The length of a summer people would remember fondly if it hadn't happened in the middle of their life like a grenade. She leaned back, staring at the ceiling, voice flat now, drained of performance. It started as talking, at the restaurant, after hours. He'd stay, help close, just for something to do. We got along. It felt easy, like we were both breathing the same air for the first time in a long time. And you couldn't breathe with me. That's not fair. It's accurate. She looked at me like I was someone new. Maybe I was. Maybe she was too. Maybe that was the problem. We'd both become people neither of us had agreed to love. The conversation didn't end. It just dissolved. She kept talking about distance, about loneliness, about how we'd both become functional roommates, about how Colin made her feel seen, the kind of phrasing people pick up from therapy podcasts and Instagram quotes, words that mean everything and nothing depending on who's listening. I let her speak. I didn't interrupt. Not because I agreed, because I wanted every detail. Not for closure, for clarity. Clarity is a scalpel. Closure is a blanket. I wasn't interested in being warm. By the time she ran out of explanations, the room felt colder. The groceries were still sweating on the counter. The rain had turned from a steady fall to a gentle tapping, like even the weather was waiting to see what came next. When she finally stopped talking, she looked at me like she expected a verdict. I don't know what you want from me now, she said. I don't either, I said. But I know I don't want this version of the truth, where everything is framed like an accident you tripped into. You gave him a key. That's not stumbling. That's planning. Her eyes filled, not with tears, but with something harder. Resentment, maybe. Or shame disguised as anger. I was going to tell you, she said. When? After the holidays? After you figured out how to make the breakup feel mutual so you wouldn't have to be the villain? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. We both knew. I didn't drink, didn't smash anything, didn't stare dramatically out the window like a man in a movie making a silent vow to vengeance. I just sat and thought. About the shelf I installed 3 months ago, about the whiskey glass on the table, about the way she said we and meant I, about the fact that she hadn't once said she was sorry she did it, only that she was sorry I found out this way. There's a difference, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. At 11:18 p.m., I checked the front door camera again. There was no new footage. Just me at 4:47, Ruthie waving me down, Tom arriving at 4:53, Colin leaving at 4:23. I rewound farther. 3:02 p.m. Maya opens the door for him. 2:38 p.m. He finds the key, 1:11 p.m. She steps out onto the porch, looks up and down the street, checks something on her phone, then hides the key. The day had a shape now, a rhythm, a structure. Not chaos, not confusion, intention. At 1:07 a.m., I finally stood up. My legs were stiff, my shirt still faintly damp, my mind sharper than it had been in months. I walked upstairs, but not into the bedroom. I grabbed a blanket from the linen closet and laid it on the couch. As I turned off the lights, I noticed something else. My wedding photo, the one that sat on the hallway table, was gone. Not moved, gone. She hadn't said a word about that. She hadn't expected me to notice, but I did, because I notice everything. That's my job. That's who I am. And now, she doesn't get to forget that. Not anymore. The next morning, she was gone again. Left early. No note. No text. Just absence, like she'd practiced it. I stood in the kitchen, drinking cold coffee, looking at the faint dust outline where the wedding photo had once sat. The picture had been taken on a July afternoon. Clear sky, laughing faces, cake smudged on my cheek. I tried to summon how I'd felt that day. All I got was a static version of it, like remembering a dream someone else had described to me. I went to work. Not because I wanted to, because routine is what stops people from dissolving. I spent the morning running cable through the walls of a real estate office whose owner talked too loudly about investment strategies. He kept offering opinions I didn't ask for. I nodded, smiled, installed cameras, wrote down the password twice, once in plain English, once in code, because I knew he'd lose it. At lunch, I sat in my truck, watched the fog drift across the parking lot. My phone buzzed, one message from Maya. "Can we talk tonight?" I stared at the screen, typed nothing, deleted nothing, put the phone face down. Talking was her approach to everything. Delay action, extend process, wear conflict down by softening its edges. That used to work on me. Not anymore. Around 3 p.m., I drove to Heartworks. I didn't go in, didn't want a scene, didn't want witnesses. I just watched the building from across the street, glass storefront, big wooden sign. Inside, the kind of curated masculinity you'd find in a lifestyle magazine. Reclaimed beams, Edison bulbs, a wall of tools hung in perfect symmetry. A showroom for a life no one actually lived. At 3:17 p.m., he came out. Colin Hart. He looked exactly like he looked on his website. Square jaw, trim beard, flannel shirt rolled at the sleeves like he was about to build a barn instead of an Instagram post. He didn't see me. I didn't wave. I just watched him get into his truck. Big, black, spotless, and drive off. He didn't look like a man who thought he'd done something wrong. He looked like a man who was sure he'd already won. I let him believe that. For now. When I got home, Maya's car was in the driveway, front lights on inside. Music playing, something soft, nostalgic, the kind of playlist you pick when you're trying to create a mood of honesty, the kind of soundtrack for confessions that don't cost anything. I walked inside. She was at the table, hair down, eyes tired in a way that wasn't just from lack of sleep. "I don't want to fight," she said. "Good," I said, "because I'm not fighting." She nodded like she didn't quite understand what that meant yet. "We can fix this," she said. "No," I said. "We can't." Her lips parted, the first real shock I'd seen on her face. I sat down, folded my hands, looked at her the way I'd look at a stranger giving me instructions in a language I didn't speak. "You didn't trip into this," I said. "You built it, you measured the distance, you hid the key, you timed the shower, you called the cops because you didn't want the mess of explaining why he was still here. That's not confusion, that's choreography." Tears filled her eyes then, but they weren't the kind that begged forgiveness. They were the kind that appeared when someone realizes the version of themselves they've been selling doesn't have a buyer anymore. "You're not angry," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm done." "That's worse." "Exactly." She asked where we go from here. I said I didn't know yet, which was true. But I knew where I was starting, with the facts, with the footage, with the kind of clarity that doesn't ask for comfort. I'm not loud, I'm not impulsive, I don't throw things, I document, I archive, I build systems, and when something breaches the system, I trace the intrusion. I don't erase the data, I use it. Because there's one thing Maya never understood. Quiet never meant weak, it meant patient, and patience is only calm until it isn't. That night, I slept in the guest room. The house felt different. Not empty, not broken, just honest. I opened the front door camera again, downloaded the clips, saved the timestamps, exported the files to 3 different backups, labeled them. If you want to destroy something, you need heat. If you want to expose something, you need light. I wasn't burning anything, not yet. I was turning the lights on, quietly, thoroughly, permanently. Because she wasn't the only one who could prepare, and she wasn't the only one who could leave someone else in the dark. Not anymore. The next days were a study in separation without announcement. We still shared a house, but not a life. She moved around me carefully, like I was breakable, or explosive, or both. She left handwritten notes instead of speaking sometimes. Little things. "We're low on coffee. I'm working late. Don't forget the trash is pickup tomorrow." It was domestic communication stripped of intimacy, like a manual for operating a machine that no longer responded to touch. I responded when necessary. Short sentences, factual, dry, efficient. She noticed. She didn't comment. It became a ritual. Her trying to soften, me refusing to participate in the fiction of repair, but even rituals end. 3 days after the truth, she finally asked the question she'd been circling. "Are you leaving?" The old me would have answered quickly, tried to ease her anxiety, offered a plan. The new me said, "Eventually." She stood in the doorway of the kitchen, arms crossed, but not defensive, protective, like she was holding herself together. "And until then," she said, "until then, I'm staying long enough to see the full picture. I don't like acting blind." That sounds like a threat. It's not. It's a promise to myself. She stared at me, and I could see it finally land. The person she'd counted on to look away wasn't looking away anymore. She'd traded quiet safety for reckless adrenaline, and now she was realizing adrenaline has a hangover. That night, I opened her phone. Not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted context. She didn't lock it with anything more complicated than a 4-digit code. I knew it before I even touched the screen. People cheat with passwords, too. They don't bother strengthening what they secretly want to be discovered. I didn't read every message, didn't need to, just enough to confirm the thing I already knew in my bones. I hadn't lost her. She'd left. Long before Colin ever walked through the door, she left in pieces, half-hearted smiles, distracted evenings, quiet withdrawals of affection so small they looked like shadows instead of exits. She didn't betray the marriage in one moment. She eroded it, then blamed the tide. The last message she sent Colin was 3 days ago. He'd written, "You sure you can't stay the night next time?" She replied, "Not yet. Things are complicated. Not I can't, not I won't. Not I don't want this. Just not yet. Patience again." The difference was that hers ran out before mine started. I locked the phone, put it back. Didn't mention it, didn't need to. Some truths don't need to be spoken to be active. Some evidence is only collected, not presented. Until the right time. I wasn't angry, I wasn't wounded, I wasn't plotting some dramatic explosion. I was preparing. Like a technician, like someone who knows what happens when a system fails and what comes after. Because the one thing that matters more than the moment a fault appears, is what you do during the outage. And I've spent my life fixing things that other people break. Even when one of those people is me. Even when one of those people is her. The morning I decided to leave was unremarkable. No fight, no revelation. Just a quiet, ordinary breakfast at separate ends of the kitchen. 2 bowls, 2 spoons. 2 people pretending silence was neutral instead of weighted. She looked up once like she wanted to say something, then didn't. I finished my coffee, stood, said, "I'll be out for the afternoon." She nodded. Didn't ask where, didn't ask why. Some questions, once not asked, can never be asked again. I went to a lawyer, not a dramatic one, not a billboard divorce guy with a slogan like "Take back your life." Just a calm woman in a quiet office who listened without reacting, took notes without commentary, and gave me the facts I needed. What happens to the house? What happens to the accounts? What happens when the other party wants to negotiate the story instead of the terms? She asked if there was infidelity. I said yes. She asked if I had proof. I opened my laptop. She didn't smile, but she did nod. That was enough. When I got home, Maya was sitting on the porch, arms wrapped around herself, like the house had exhaled her. She stood when she saw me. "I talked to Zoe," she said. I told her I need time off. "For what?" "To figure things out." I nodded. She looked at me like she wanted a clue, a signal, a breadcrumb of hope. I didn't give her one. "Ethan," she said, voice breaking for the first time, not with fear, but with recognition, "you're really leaving, aren't you?" "Yes." "When?" "Soon." She closed her eyes, not to cry, to absorb impact. Some truths don't shatter you, they hollow you. I didn't pack that day, didn't slam doors, didn't scream about betrayal or broken vows. I made a list, a calm, practical list. I sorted documents, backed up files, transferred passwords, canceled joint auto payments. When you dismantle a life, there's no reason to do it loudly. Quiet is cleaner. Quiet leaves the structure intact while removing the weight inside. The day I moved out, she wasn't home. No note, no trace, just her absence, which had become its own kind of presence. I took my things, left hers. I walked through the house one last time, touched nothing, just looked. At the shelf I installed, at the couch we chose, at the space where the photo had been. There was no grief, no regret, just precision, like closing a file. Not deleting it, just marking it complete. I didn't leave a forwarding address. I didn't block her number. I didn't demand she explain me to herself. She would. People always do. Eventually, the story becomes whatever they can live with. That's not my responsibility. Mine was simple. See the truth, act on it. Walk out, not break, not burn, just exit, clean, silent, final. That was 6 months ago. I rent now, small place, good locks. I install camera systems for other people, but don't need one here. Not because I trust the world, but because trust isn't a security feature anymore. Maya emailed once, then again, then stopped. Colin popped up in a sponsored ad on my feed last week. Handsome as ever. Holding a drill he probably never turned on. Hashtag built not bought. They look good together online, I assume. Maybe they're happy, maybe they're not. Doesn't matter. Not my job to monitor something I no longer own emotional equity in. My life now is quiet. Not empty, not numb, just quiet in the way a room sounds when the electricity is cut and you suddenly realize how much hum you'd been living with. I fix things still, wires, code, systems, but not people, not promises. Those aren't my medium anymore. And sometimes, once in a while, I think about that day. The rain, the sirens, the second glass of whiskey. And I feel nothing like pain. Just the calm of knowing that every broken circuit has a trip point. And when it blows, you either rebuild or you walk away and let the house go dark. So I walked, and I didn't look back. While you're here, hit the hype button. Don't forget to subscribe and support this channel with a like. And tell us below. Have you ever faced something like this? I didn't sleep that night. Maya did, or at least she pretended to, lying on her side with her back to me, breathing slow and steady in that performative way people do when they want you to think they're out cold. I stared at the ceiling, running scenarios. I could confront her, lay it all out, the glasses, the jacket, the shower steam, the camera footage, watch her scramble for explanations that wouldn't hold water. But that felt too easy, too quick. I thought about Ruthie sprinting across her lawn. She'd seen something, known something, and she'd tried to warn me. At 6:15 a.m., I got up, got dressed, and went downstairs. Maya was still in bed. I made coffee, grabbed my work bag, and headed out. Before I pulled out of the driveway, I saw Ruthie's kitchen light on. I knocked. She opened the door in her scrubs, coffee mug in hand, like she'd been expecting me. "You look like hell," she said. "Didn't sleep?" "Didn't think you would." She stepped aside. "Come on." Her kitchen smelled like burnt toast and antiseptic. She poured me coffee without asking, slid a folded piece of paper across the table. "License plate," she said, "and the time. Colin Hart's truck. He was parked down the street for 2 hours yesterday afternoon, left right before you showed up." I unfolded the paper. Her handwriting was precise, nurse efficient. 3K7 492. 2:31 p.m., 4:24 p.m. "You just happened to write this down?" She gave me a look. "Ethan, I've been watching that man's truck show up at your house for 3 weeks. Always on nights Maya says she's working late. Always gone before morning." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know if you knew. And if you knew, I didn't want to be the nosy neighbor sticking her nose in." "But you warned me yesterday." "Because I heard her on the phone through the window. She was panicking, telling someone to leave. Then she called 911 and said there was a prowler. I put 2 and 2 together." I sipped the coffee. It was strong enough to strip paint. "What do you know about Colin?" I asked. "What everyone knows. He's got a showroom downtown, does custom Reno work for rich weekenders, big on social media, always posting videos of himself swinging a hammer and talking about authentic craftsmanship. Married once, divorced, dates around, thinks he's God's gift." "He friends with Maya?" "Don't know about friends, but I know the Slipway hired him to redo their back patio last spring. I saw them having coffee a few times after that." "Coffee." "That's what it looked like. Could have been more. People talk?" "What do they say?" She hesitated. "You really want to hear this?" "Yeah." She leaned back, arms crossed. Mary Phelps, she works the register at the co-op, said her daughter waits tables at the Slipway, said Maya and Colin have been cozy, late-night menu tastings when Zoe's not around, Staff noticed. Noticed what? That the same nights Colin's truck is in the back lot, Maya sends everyone home early, says she'll lock up. I set down the mug. Anyone tell Zoe? I don't know, but Zoe's not blind? I thought about Zoe Flores. She was 33, sharp as a knife, and had been Maya's partner for 4 years. She'd put up half the money to open the slipway and ran the kitchen like a drill sergeant. If anyone would notice something off, it'd be her. Thanks, Ruthie. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. She studied me. Ethan, if you need someone to talk to, I'm fine. You're not fine, but I get it. Just don't do anything stupid. I almost laughed. Define stupid. Stupid is doing something that puts you in jail while they walk free. I stood, left the coffee half finished. I'll keep that in mind. I spent the morning doing a job at the hardware store on Main Street, replacing their busted POS terminal. It was mindless work. Unscrew the old unit, mount the new one, run the connections, test the system. I could do it in my sleep. While I worked, I listened to the owner, Frank Grissom, complain about the town's electrical grid. Same damn problem every winter, he said, leaning on the counter. Lights flicker, power dips. Whole systems held together with duct tape and prayers. They keep saying they'll upgrade it, but nothing changes. Storm's coming tonight, I said. Probably get worse. Always does. I finished the install, packed up my tools, and headed out. On the way to my truck, I passed Heartworks Custom Renovations. It was impossible to miss. The showroom sat on a corner lot, all glass and steel and reclaimed wood, with Colin's logo, a stylized hammer and compass, splashed across the front window. Inside, I could see displays of countertops, tile samples, and one of those fake kitchen setups that looked like it belonged in a magazine. I paused. Through the window, I saw him. Colin Hart standing behind the counter, laughing with a customer. He wore a fitted Henley and jeans that probably cost more than my truck payment. His hair was perfect. His teeth caught the light. I walked in. The bell above the door chimed. Colin looked up, smile still in place, then faltered when he recognized me. Ethan, he said, recovering quickly. Hey, man. What brings you by? Just passing through. Thought I'd check out the showroom. Yeah? Well, look around. Let me know if you have any questions. I moved slowly through the space, running my hand along a display counter. Behind Colin, there was a corkboard covered in schedules, invoices, and project photos. There, a handwritten schedule grid. Monday through Friday, blocked out in different colors. Thursday nights marked closed. Private consult. I looked back at Colin. You do a lot of private consults? Sometimes. Depends on the client. Late nights? His smile tightened. Occasionally. Must be nice. Flexible hours. Yeah, it is. I picked up a tile sample, turned it over in my hand. You still doing work for the slipway? Did some patio work last spring. Why? My wife mentioned you helped with a shelf at our place. Oh, yeah. Quick favor. Took like 10 minutes. She said it was last week. Sounds right. I set the tile down. Funny thing, I installed that shelf 3 months ago. Colin's face didn't change, but his shoulders did. Just a slight tightening, like he was bracing for something. Maybe it was a different shelf, he said. Maybe. We stood there, 2 men in a showroom full of expensive surfaces, neither one saying what we were really thinking. Well, I said finally, I should get going. Thanks for the tour. Anytime, brother. I left without looking back. That night, I got a call from Zoe. Ethan, hey, you got a minute? Yeah, what's up? I'm at the slipway. Maya asked me to take tomorrow night off. I leaned against my truck, parked outside a gas station. Okay, why are you telling me? She hesitated. Because she's been doing that a lot lately, pushing me out on specific nights. And I saw Colin's truck in the back lot twice last week. My grip tightened on the phone. You think something's going on? I asked. I don't know, but it's weird, and I don't like lying to you if something is. I appreciate that. Ethan, if there's something going on, what are you going to do? I don't know yet. Just be careful. Maya's my friend, but so are you. Thanks, Zoe. She hung up. I sat in the truck, staring at the rain streaking down the windshield, and pulled up the bank account I shared with Maya. Joint checking, I scrolled through recent transactions. There, an Amazon order from 5 days ago, shipped to our address. Cologne, expensive, the kind of thing I'd never buy. I cross-referenced the timestamp with the door camera footage. Colin had been at the house that afternoon. I closed the app, started the engine, and drove to the ferry dock. The late ferry ran until 11 p.m., shuttling people between Harrow's Cove and Gull's Point across the bay. It was mostly locals, shift workers, bar staff, people too tired to care about the cold. I knew Colin used it sometimes. He had a client in Gull's Point, some weekend house he was renovating. I waited in my truck, parked in the shadows of the lot, and watched the dock. At 10:42 p.m., Colin's truck pulled up. He got out, locked it, and walked toward the ramp. I followed, hands in my pockets, hoodie up. The ferry was half empty. I hung back near the stern, watching him lean against the rail, scrolling through his phone. Halfway across the bay, I walked over. Colin. He looked up, startled. Jesus, Ethan, didn't see you. Funny how that works. He glanced around. No one was paying attention, just tired people zoned out on their phones. Look, man, if this is about what? He swallowed. Nothing, forget it. I stepped closer. The ferry rocked under our feet, rain slicking the deck. You left your jacket at my house, I said. I told you. I was helping with a shelf. Right, the shelf. Yeah. Funny thing about that shelf. It's got a crack in the tile behind it, half an inch right at the corner. You wouldn't notice it unless you installed it. Colin's face went blank. I mentioned it to Maya once, I continued. Told her it made me laugh. She does this thing where she tries to hide it when she's laughing. Covers her mouth, but you can still see it in her eyes. I call it her half-tile crack laugh. He didn't say anything. You've seen it, haven't you? I don't know what you're talking about. I leaned in, voice low. You know exactly what I'm talking about, and you know I know. He shoved me. Not hard, just enough to make space. Back off, man. I didn't move. Or what? He shoved again, harder this time, and I let him push me into the railing. A couple of people looked over now, murmuring. Colin stepped back, breathing hard. You're crazy. Maybe. A voice cut through the rain. Everything okay here? I turned. Tom Doyle was standing by the cabin door, off duty but still carrying that cop presence. We're fine, I said. Tom looked at Colin. That true? Colin hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, just a misunderstanding. Seems to be a lot of those going around, Tom said, looking at me. I smiled. Small town, people get their wires crossed. Tom didn't smile back. Try not to cross them on my ferry. I walked away, leaving Colin gripping the railing, knuckles white. When I got home, Maya was asleep. I checked my phone. There was a new post on the Harrow's Cove Moms forum, an anonymous account I didn't recognize. Anyone else notice Ethan Vale acting strange lately? Saw him following someone at the ferry dock tonight. Felt aggressive. Hope everyone stays safe. I read it 3 times. Then I pulled up my work logs. The night they were claiming I acted strange, I'd been 2 towns over, installing a system for a medical office. Time-stamped. Documented. Someone was trying to rewrite the story. And they were just getting started. I didn't respond to the forum post. Didn't need to. By morning, Ruthie had already posted a screenshot of my work logs with a single line. Ethan Vale was 40 miles away that night. Nice try. The anonymous post disappeared an hour later. I sat in my truck outside the slipway at 7 a.m., drinking gas station coffee and watching the early morning prep crew trickle in through the back door. The restaurant didn't open until 11, but kitchens never sleep. Someone's always prepping, cleaning, fixing what broke the night before. Zoe's car was already there. So was Maya's. I texted Zoe, "You working today?" Her reply came fast. "Yeah. Why? Can we talk?" "Not about work." "Okay. Give me 20. Meet at the pier." I drove down to the public pier, parked, and waited. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still that flat gray that promised more. Gulls circled the lobster boats, and the air smelled like salt and diesel. Zoe showed up in her chef's coat, hair pulled back, eyes tired. "You look like you didn't sleep," she said. "I didn't. You?" "Not much." She leaned against the railing. "What's going on, Ethan? I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay." "How long has Maya been sleeping with Colin Hart?" She didn't flinch, didn't pretend to be shocked. Just sighed and looked out at the water. "I don't know for sure that she is." "But you suspect?" "Yeah." "How long?" She rubbed her face. "Maybe 2 months? I started noticing things in late August. She'd send me home early on nights Colin was around. claimed she wanted to work on inventory or test new menu ideas. But the inventory was always fine and the menu never changed. Did you confront her? Once, she laughed it off, said I was paranoid. But then she started getting sloppy. Sloppy how? Colin's cologne in the office, her phone always face down. Late-night texts she wouldn't answer in front of me, and the staff noticed. They talk, Ethan. They talk a lot. What do they say? She hesitated. That Colin parks in the back lot on the same nights Maya closes alone, that they've seen them leaving together. One of the line cooks said he saw Colin's tool belt on the back stairs once, in the middle of the night. I felt that cold thing in my chest tighten. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because I didn't know what I'd be blowing up. If I was wrong, I'd ruin your marriage and my partnership with Maya. If I was right, I'd still ruin those things, just for different reasons. So you said nothing. I was trying to figure out what to do, and then you showed up yesterday, and I realized I couldn't sit on it anymore. I looked at her. Thank you. For what? For not lying to me. She nodded. What are you going to do? I'm going to make them tell the truth. How? I don't know yet. But I'm not giving them the chance to spin this into something I did wrong. She studied me. Be careful, Ethan. Maya's good at rewriting history. I know. Later, I spent the rest of the day working, but my mind wasn't on the job. I kept thinking about Ruthie's words. Stupid is doing something that puts you in jail while they walk free. If I confronted Maya head-on, she'd deny it, spin it into me being paranoid, controlling, irrational. And Colin? He'd vanish into the background, let Maya take the heat and move on to the next conquest. I needed them to expose themselves. Not to me, to everyone. That night, I drove past Heartworks. The showroom was closed, lights off except for the security system panel glowing faintly near the back. I knew that panel. I'd installed ones just like it 100 times. I also knew the building was on the same grid as half of downtown. Frank Grissom's words echoed. Whole systems held together with duct tape and prayers. I pulled out my phone and started researching. Three days later, I got a call from a client, a corporate event planner looking to book a private party. I saw the slipway online, the voice said. Professional, clipped. We're interested in reserving the space for a team-building dinner. 50 people, next Friday. The voice was mine. I'd used a burner app and a fake company name. That sounds wonderful, Maya said on the other end. Let me check our calendar. I listened to her shuffle papers. We have availability, she said. I'll send over a contract and menu options. Perfect. 2 days later, I canceled. The email was polite, professional, and vague. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, we need to postpone. We'll reach out when we're ready to reschedule. Then I posted a review online. Not on the Slipways page. That would be too obvious. Instead, I posted on a regional tourism forum under a fake name, tried to book an event at the Slipway in Harrow's Cove. Front-of-house staff was unprofessional and disorganized. Ended up canceling. Would recommend looking elsewhere. I didn't mention Maya by name. Didn't lie. Just left an impression. Within a week, 2 other corporate inquiries pulled back. Meanwhile, I started noticing things about Colin's business. Heartworks had pulled a permit 3 weeks ago. Public record, available on the town's website, to store materials at a residential address. Our address. Maya had signed off on it as the homeowner. The permit claimed they were storing tile samples and plywood. But our HOA had rules, strict ones. No commercial storage on residential property. I didn't call the HOA. I didn't need to. I just mentioned it to Ruthie over coffee one morning. Casual, offhand. Weird that Colin's storing materials at our place, right? I didn't even know about it until I saw the permit online. Ruthie's eyes lit up. He's storing commercial materials in a residential zone? Apparently. That's a violation. The HOA's going to lose their minds. Probably. She pulled out her phone. I'm on the neighborhood message board. Let me check if anyone else knows about this. Within an hour, the thread had 17 comments. By the end of the day, the HOA had sent Maya a formal notice. Fine, $500. Deadline, 10 days. I didn't do anything illegal, just pointed out something that was already true. On Thursday night, Colin was scheduled to do a live renovation demo at Heartworks. I knew because he'd posted about it on social media for 2 weeks. Join me for a behind-the-scenes look at custom cabinetry installation, live Q&A, giveaways, and more. I drove downtown and parked a block away. At 7:03 p.m., the lights inside Heartworks flickered. The town's power grid was unstable. Everyone knew it. It happened all the time. Old infrastructure, overloaded circuits, weather. But tonight, the timing was perfect. The flicker became a dip. The backup lighting kicked in, dim, emergency mode fluorescence that made everything look washed out. I watched through the window as Colin fumbled with his phone, trying to reboot his camera. The live stream chat was going wild. People were commenting, laughing, asking if he'd paid his electric bill. Then his truck alarm went off. I don't know why. Maybe a vibration from the power surge triggered it. Maybe someone bumped it. But the lights started strobing, the horn blaring, and Colin sprinted outside, cursing. I was already walking away by the time he got there. The next morning, Ruthie handed me a printout. This was on the mom's forum last night, she said. It was a post from an anonymous account, same one that had tried to frame me before, saw Ethan Vale lurking near Heartworks last night, right before Colin's live stream crashed. Coincidence? I checked my phone. I'd been on a documented work call during that time, installing a system in the next town over. I showed Ruthie the call log. Someone really wants people to think you're stalking them, she said. Yeah. Who? I didn't answer, but I was starting to piece it together. The anonymous posts weren't random. They were strategic. Someone was trying to build a narrative where I was the bad guy, the jealous, unstable husband who couldn't let go. And there was only one person who had a reason to do that. Maya. That night, I invited her to dinner, at home, just the two of us. She looked surprised when I suggested it. Really? Yeah, I feel like we haven't talked in a while. Okay, that sounds nice. I made pasta, poured wine, set my phone on the counter, screen visible, recording light on. I'm recording this, I said as she sat down, just so we're clear. She frowned. Why? Because I want there to be a record of what we talk about. You okay with that? She hesitated, then nodded. Sure. I sat across from her and slid a folder across the table. What's this? She asked. A separation agreement. I had a lawyer draft it. Her face went pale. Ethan, it's fair. We split the house 50-50. You keep your half of the slipway, I keep my business, no alimony, clean break. You're serious? Yeah. Why? I didn't answer right away. Just pulled out my phone and opened the door camera footage, turned it around so she could see. Colin, walking into our house, using the spare key. Her hands started shaking. It's not? Don't, I said quietly. Don't lie to me. Not here, not now. She stared at the screen, tears welling up. How long? I asked. Ethan, how long, Maya? 2 months, I nodded. And the forum posts, the ones trying to make me look like a stalker? She looked away. That was you, wasn't it? I was scared, she whispered. I thought you were going to do something crazy. Crazy like what? Expose you? Ethan, please. Sign the agreement, I said, or I make this public. She looked at the folder, then at me. You'd really do that? Yes. She picked up the pen. Her hand hovered over the paper, then she set it down. I need to think about it. You've got 3 days. I stood, left the kitchen, and walked out into the rain. Maya didn't sign. 3 days came and went, and the folder sat on the kitchen counter, untouched. But something had shifted. She stopped pretending, stopped trying to explain, just moved through the house like a ghost, avoiding eye contact, sleeping in the guest room. Colin, on the other hand, got bolder. I was leaving the hardware store on Tuesday afternoon when he pulled up beside me in his truck, window down. We need to talk, he said. About what? About you making my life hell. I stopped walking. I haven't done anything to you. The permit, the HOA fine, the livestream crash. That's all you. You filed the permit. The HOA enforces the rules, and the power grid in this town is garbage. None of that's on me. He got out of the truck, stepped close. You think you're clever. I think I'm careful. You're not going to win this. I'm not trying to win. I'm just making sure everyone knows who you are. His jaw tightened. Stay away from Maya. She's my wife. Not for long, I smiled. Funny, that's what I keep telling her. He shoved me. Not hard, but enough to make me stumble back a step. Walk away, he said. Or what? He shoved me again, and this time I didn't move. Just stood there, hands in my pockets, watching him. You really want to do this here? I asked. In front of Frank's security camera? His eyes flicked to the corner of the building, where a small black dome was mounted. I'd installed it 2 months ago. He stepped back, breathing hard. "This isn't over," he said. "I know." He got back in his truck and drove off, tires squealing. I walked to my truck, pulled out my phone, and sent Frank a text. "Can I get a copy of the footage from your parking lot?" "About 5 minutes ago." His reply came fast. "Sure thing. Everything okay?" "Yeah, just want a record." That night, Ruthie knocked on my door. "You need to see this," she said, holding out her phone. It was an email thread, forwarded from a friend of hers who worked at the fire marshal's office. Anonymous tip regarding Ethan Vale. Possible tampering with electrical systems at commercial properties. Request investigation. The email was sent from a burner account. No name, no signature, but the IP address was local. "This is Maya," I said. Ruthie nodded. "Or Colin. Maybe both. They're trying to frame me." I pulled up my work logs, cross-referenced the timestamps. Every job I'd done in the last 3 months was documented. Every install was up to code. Every invoice was clean. "They've got nothing," I said. "Doesn't matter. The rumor alone could hurt you." She was right. In a town like Harrow's Cove, perception was everything. Even if the investigation cleared me, the whispers would linger. I needed to flip the script. Fast. The Harrow's Cove. Summer Nights Festival was 2 weeks away. It was the town's biggest event, a street fair that stretched along Main and Harbor with food vendors, live music, and craft booths. The Slipway always had a major presence, Maya's big play for the year. She'd been planning it for months. A chef's table set up on the patio, a tasting menu, local press coverage. Colin was catering a pop-up demo nearby, some kind of live grilling thing. I pulled up the festival's vendor map online. Public information. Anyone could access it. There was a storefront right between the Slipway and Colin's setup. Empty, for lease. I called the landlord. "I'm interested in renting the space for the festival," I said. "Just for the day." "What's your plan?" "Tech kiosk, beta testing some new systems. I've got all the permits." "Permits?" "Yeah. Power draw, occupancy, insurance. I'll send them over." I'd filed the permits 3 days ago, all legitimate. All approved, the landlord agreed. I signed a 1-day lease. The morning of the festival, I set up early. The kiosk was simple. A folding table, a laptop, a small projector, and a backup power strip. Ruthie showed up at 9 a.m. with coffee. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Running a test." "Ethan, I'm not breaking any laws. I filed every permit, paid every fee. This is all above board." She looked at the projector. "What are you going to show?" "The truth." She didn't ask again. By noon, the festival was in full swing. The street was packed. Tourists, locals, kids with balloons. The Slipway's patio was set up with white tablecloths and candles, a small crowd already gathering. Maya was there, smiling, playing host. Colin's demo was directly across, a grill set up with a crowd of people watching him flip steaks and take selfies. I stayed in my kiosk, waiting. At 1 p.m., I ran the power test. The grid flickered, just for a second, barely noticeable. But Colin's backup power failed. His grill went cold, his lights went out. He cursed, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Sorry, folks," he said, forcing a smile. "Technical difficulties. Give me a minute." He didn't get a minute, because at that exact moment, someone at the Slipway bumped a candle. It tipped, caught the edge of a decorative banner. The sprinklers kicked on. Water everywhere. Guests screaming. Tables overturned. Maya stood in the middle of it, soaked, screaming at her staff. "How did this happen?" "I don't know. The candle just... This is unacceptable." I turned on the projector. The image filled the wall behind me. A timeline. Simple, clean, no commentary, just facts. Colin entering my house. Timestamp 2:38 p.m. October 3rd. The door camera footage. Clear, legal. The permit filed by Colin, listing our address as a storage site. Public record. The HOA fine issued to Maya. Public record. The forum posts, anonymous but traceable to local IPs. The email to the fire marshal. Timestamp matching a night Maya was alone at the Slipway. Colin's schedule board, photographed from outside Heartworks through the window. Legal, public view. Zoe's resignation letter, dated yesterday, announcing she was buying out Maya's share of the Slipway. I didn't add a single word of commentary. Didn't need to. The crowd turned. Phones came out. People started taking pictures. Maya saw it first. She froze, water dripping from her hair, staring at the projection. Colin saw it next. His face went white. "This is—" he started, but didn't finish, because Zoe stepped forward. "I'm buying Maya out," she said loudly, addressing the crowd. "Effective immediately. She violated our partnership agreement by using company resources for personal matters and creating a hostile work environment. The slipway will continue under new management," the crowd murmured. Maya's mouth opened, closed. "You can't—" "I already did," Zoe said calmly. "Contract's filed. Investors are on board. You're out." Colin tried to move toward Maya, but someone in the crowd shouted, "Isn't that the guy from the livestream crash?" Another voice, "Yeah, and the truck alarm." Colin spun, looking for an escape. "I didn't do anything." "Really?" I called from the kiosk. "Because I've got work logs that prove I was somewhere else every time you claimed I was stalking you. Want me to project those too?" He didn't answer. Maya turned to me, eyes full of fury. "You did this." "No," I said. "You did this." I just made sure people could see it. Colin made a move toward me, fast, aggressive, but his foot caught the curb. He went down hard, skidded on the wet pavement. The crowd gasped. I walked over, knelt down, and gripped the back of his jacket. Not pulling, not hurting, just holding. "You don't need me arrested to lose everything," I said quietly. "You just need witnesses." I let go, stood, walked back to the kiosk. Colin lay there, soaked, humiliated, surrounded by phones recording every second. Maya stood on the patio, investors shaking Zoe's hand behind her. The festival music kicked back on. The rain hissed on the awnings. The crowd slowly turned back to the vendors, and I packed up my projector, folded the table, and walked away. I didn't go home that night. Didn't want to. Instead, I drove to the pier and sat in my truck, windows down, listening to the waves hit the pylons. My phone buzzed. A text from Ruthie. "You okay?" "Yeah, that was brutal. It needed to be. What happens now?" "I don't know." I set the phone down and stared at the water. The truth was, I didn't feel victorious. Didn't feel anything, really. Just empty. Maya had destroyed our marriage. Colin had walked into my house like he owned it, and I'd spent 2 weeks dismantling their lives piece by piece, using nothing but public records and patience. But none of it gave me back what I'd lost. Around midnight, my phone rang. It was Tom Doyle. "Ethan, you at home?" "No. Why?" "Maya called. Said you threatened her." I laughed, cold, sharp. "Of course she did." "Did you?" "No. I projected public information at a public event. That's not a threat. That's transparency." Tom sighed. "Look, I know things are complicated right now." "Complicated?" "Tom, she filed a false complaint with the fire marshal. She tried to frame me as a stalker. She called 911 and said I was a prowler in my own house. None of that's complicated. It's calculated." "Ethan, am I being charged with something?" "No." "Then I've got nothing else to say." I hung up. The next morning, I went back to the house. Maya was in the kitchen, packing boxes. "I'm moving out," she said without looking at me. "Good. Zoe's letting me stay at her place until I figure things out." "That's generous of her." She slammed a box shut. "You ruined me." "No, I just stopped letting you rewrite history. Everyone thinks I'm a monster now." "You made choices, Maya. I just made sure people knew what those choices were." She turned, eyes red. "I loved you." "No, you loved the idea of me, the safe, boring husband who'd never ask questions." "That's not fair." "Fair? You let another man into our house, into our bed, and when I found out, you tried to destroy me. Don't talk to me about fair." She grabbed her keys, her bag. "I'll have the rest of my stuff out by the end of the week." "Fine." She walked to the door, paused. "I hope you're happy," she said. "I'm not, but I'm free. That's close enough." She left. I stood in the kitchen, surrounded by half-packed boxes and the silence of a house that no longer felt like home. Two days later, I got a call from Zoe. "Ethan, you got a minute?" "Yeah." "I wanted to let you know. Maya signed the buyout. She's officially out of the slipway." "Good." "And Colin's business is tanking. Lost 3 major clients this week. Word got around about the permit violations and the HOA fines. Not my problem." "I know, but I thought you'd want to know." "Thanks." She hesitated. Are you okay? I don't know. Ask me in a year. Fair enough. If you ever need a meal, come by. It's on the house. I appreciate that. She hung up. I spent the next week cleaning out the house, boxing up Maya's things, repainting the guest room, fixing the broken drawer in the kitchen. Ruthie stopped by one afternoon with a casserole. You doing okay? She asked. I'm surviving. That's a start. She set the dish on the counter. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Most people wouldn't agree. Most people don't have the guts to stand up for themselves. You did. That matters. It doesn't feel like it. She patted my shoulder. It will, eventually. A week after the festival, I was driving through town when I saw Colin's truck parked outside a bar on the edge of Main Street. I almost kept driving, but something made me stop. I parked, walked in. He was at the bar, alone, nursing a whiskey. He looked up when I sat down beside him. Come to gloat? He asked. No. Then why are you here? I don't know. The bartender slid me a beer without asking. I didn't touch it. I lost everything, Colin said quietly. My business, my reputation. Maya won't even talk to me. Good. He laughed, bitter, broken. You really hate me, don't you? I don't think about you enough to hate you. He stared at his glass. I didn't mean for it to happen. Yes, you did. You saw a married woman, and you went after her anyway. Don't pretend this was some accident. You made a choice. So did she. He didn't argue. I thought I loved her, he said. No, you loved the thrill of taking something that wasn't yours. He finished his drink, set the glass down. What now? He asked. Now you live with it. Same as me. I stood, left the beer untouched, and walked out. Three months later, the house sold. I moved into a small apartment overlooking the harbor. 1 bedroom, quiet, no ghosts. Ruthie helped me unpack. Fresh start, she said, setting a box of kitchen stuff on the counter. Yeah. You seem lighter. I am. Good. She handed me a coffee mug. You know, you could have done this differently. Could have forgiven her. Maybe, but I didn't want to. No regrets? I thought about it. No, I said. Not about this. She smiled. Good. The apartment had a small balcony. I stood out there that night watching the boats rock in the harbor, lights reflecting on the black water. Somewhere in town, Maya was rebuilding her life. So was Colin. And so was I. The difference was I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I'd told the truth, exposed the lies, let the consequences fall where they belonged, and for the first time in months I could breathe. The rain started again, light, steady, the kind that settles in for the night. I stayed on the balcony, let it soak through my shirt, and watched the town below. Harrow's Cove was still the same, fog-bitten, gossipy, unforgiving, but I wasn't. I'd walked through fire and come out the other side. I'm not whole, not healed, but standing. And that was enough.